I'd just like to praise Yahweh that our Heavenly Father has allowed us another day to bring food to His children. See, there's a spiritual food and there's a natural food. Through the spiritual food, the natural becomes pure, becomes easy. What is the yoke that the Heavenly Father says is my yoke is easy to bear? Which means that His children can live a life on easy street. They'd be healthy. They'd have enough financial gain in their little particular kingdom, healthy, wealthy, and wise. If, the biggest word in the English dictionary, if you follow my laws and employ my judgments. See, even the ordinances are laws, even though they're under a smaller category. The 10 Commandments are the table of contents to the law. And as we go through this lecture today, I'm going to show you how number 10 of the commandments works out through our Heavenly Father's yoke of burden, which is easy, because the book tells us, and it's written, that he whose laws you obey is the kingdom you live in. Be careful. See, 65 years ago, before all of the colors of hue, the people of hue, of color, hue, you know, that certain little shade, the humans, before they started to be let as a floodgate out across the railroad tracks into society, we were healthy, wealthy, and wise. But we got Jude out of that because we would not employ Yahweh's laws. So every time we forget to employ or put into action a judgment for a wrongdoing of those laws, we become stupid, we become unhealthy, and we become poorer. Just like our society shows us today. What is it, 70 years since he had a dream? Almost. And now, you're a racist if you're a white Western European Israelite descendancy. As your Christian, Judeo-Christian churches have put our Heavenly Father's laws away, the darkness has risen. The covenant gets pushed further back. The light, the covenant, the Father of lights, James tells us in chapter 1. The Father of lights. And He's our Father. We're the children of lights. What color is light? White. Until you add a hue to it. So the Father of lights gets pushed way back in the corner, and He's eclipsed by all the hues of darkness that have risen out of this corner, and out of this ghetto, and out of this slum, and they just pour into the cities. And because one of them is disturbed by the cross in a town someplace that represents the crucifixion, he has a right over all the rest of the individuals in that town to have that cross removed, just because it's on public property. And with that being said, we're going to get right busy and get into this. Divers laws. We're going to do chapter 24 of Deuteronomy today. I'm Yahweh's name witness. I'm a covenant relationship teacher, Ray Bunzow. send me a note or a postcard. P.O. Box 143, Roscommon, Michigan, 48653. 4 small characters and a number for my email address, rbun9@yahoo.com. Visit my Labyrinth to Israel YouTube site. Labyrinth, Labyrintth, to Israel, Ishrael. Now, just a couple of days ago, January 30th, was the Sabbath, the last day before the full moon. The full moon was the 31st. But the Sabbath was January 30th, the last crest before the super blue fire moon. And today is Shabbat the 16th, 7,520 years from the time our Heavenly Father promised His Son Adam to redeem the original sin. Next, please. In all things considered, are we experts of the law? No. Meaning we're not studied to show ourselves worthy. What we are experts of, though, is lawlessness because of Judeo-Christianity. The Houdini churches, the 501c3 incorporated churches, the FEMA churches, through the National Council of Churches, have put all of the Heavenly Father's laws away and have said, because of grace, you have absolutely no accountability. But now just stop and think. If you were going to ride a bicycle, there are certain disciplines that you must follow. Not just one discipline, but there are several different things that you have to accomplish before you even can ride the bicycle. Make sure the grease is on the chain, air in the tires, the pedals fit tight to the sprocket, the handlebars are tight. Before you even learn to balance to ride a bicycle. Now, if you're going to shoot a gun, there are disciplines to learn. If you're going to run for Congress, there are disciplines to learn. Discipline isn't just something you get spanked because you did something wrong. It's a protocol. It's a law. It's a following of the order. If there is no order, there is no kingdom. And to put this bit aside about us being great lawlessnesses, we have to learn the law. Today we're going to learn a little bit of law. We're going to have some family law. Like I said, we're going to have some of the 10th commandment put forth, and how to treat the rest of our family in different aspects. Excuse me. So as we get started here, Deuteronomy 24, verse 1. When, at that point in time, a man takes a wife and married her. So the young man finds his rib, says, this is the woman for me. They become one. And time passes, and he finds no favor. She's found no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her. Now the uncleanliness there in the footnotes has something to do about nakedness. Usually nakedness refers to infidelity, or it could go as far out as adultery. which is the mixing of the family with another nationality. Or there's many other things that got in the way back in the days of Moses on up to Jeremiah, were being stiff-necked when the women didn't act really right. They just got a bill of divorce and they sent them away. So if for whatever reason there was uncleanness found in her, then let him write the woman a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of the house. And when she's departed out of the house, she may go and be another man's wife. Well, so she can marry again. And if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement and give it to her in her hand and send her out of the house, and the latter husband die, which took her to be the wife, the former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after she is defiled. For that is an abomination before Yahweh. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, in which Yahweh thy king giveth thee for an inheritance. And that's a sin towards the land. That if I were to divorce a wife and she gets married, I could never take her back again unless I meet certain requirements. But I don't think I'm ready to die just to take a woman back. Excuse me. Now, part 2 on the family life here. When a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife, which he hath taken. Now, in order to figure out what cheers wife up, we're going to go over to Proverbs 5. Pick out a couple of verses here. Proverbs 5, verse 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thy ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is better than wormwood. Now this is the strange woman that you're being warned to stay away from. Go down here to verse 15. Drink the waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountain be dispersed abroad, and the rivers of water into the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife that you have. It says, the wife of your youth here in the book. But rejoice in the wife that you have in today's society. And as far as business, the only real business that the husband's to have this first year is to plant some grapes and possibly some fruit trees if he got land where there was no fruit trees. Other than that, he's to start his family, build a home life, and a relationship with this woman through an arranged marriage. Because back in the days from Moses on up until, I don't know, pick a time in 500 or 600 AD, 1000 AD, when the evil came up with this concept where you have to love. What is love? This is an abstract concept that fidelity to maintain an honor with your mate. Which means you don't go drinking out of strange wells. They didn't have a love concept years and years ago. They had a fidelity or an infidelity concept, where you either stayed at home and maintained your home life, or you went abroad and what that made that to you. Oh, he's a whoremonger. Or worse. Verse 6. I found this an interesting passage. Usury here. No man shall take the upper part of the millstone to a pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge. See, the millstone would be considered similar to a small coffee grinder. A little different. It's set upon the mill, and in the morning you would make your grain, grind your grain to make breakfast. A loaf of bread, or granola cereal maybe. But the thing is, it's telling you right here, do not give your livelihood as a pledge for a loan. Verse 7. Interesting here now. We're getting into the 10th commandment. Down to verse 13 here. The 10th commandment. Thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house, wife, servants, animals, or anything. Paraphrased out of Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. Now, if a man, Deuteronomy 24:7, if a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, Israel's the man, renamed from Jacob, and his descendants crossed through the Caucasus Mountains, settled Western Europe, Germanic, Scandinavia, Celtic, Irish, French, Spanish, and others are the children of Israel. Then they regathered in the North America continent. Now this is interesting. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of them, or selleth them, slavery maybe, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put evil away from among you. Interesting. So what happened to Joseph's brothers? That's right, that was before the Mosaic Law, wasn't it? Verse 8. Take heed in the plague of leprosy, and thou observe diligently and do according to all that the priests and the Levites shall teach you. As I commanded them, so ye shall observe to do. Remember what Yahweh thy king did unto Miriam, by the way. After that ye were gone out of Egypt. Remember when Miriam, she was moaning and Aaron was complaining about Moses being the only one to talk straight out with the Heavenly Father? What happened to Miriam's hand? Because she was sitting in the background and she was really ragging on everybody about how Moses was this and Moses was that, and how her hand turned leprous. And so she had to go through a process, go out of the camp for a time, until she repented of her ways and her hand was restored. But be careful, see, the plague of leprosy in today's world, as I said, the fewer of our Heavenly Father's laws that we put to work, and our judgments that we employ to keep the evil out of the land, to put the evil away from you, to stop the evil, the more your diseases have grown. Leprosy today is like AIDS or HIV. Deuteronomy 24 verse 10. When thou dost lend to thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch what you have loaned. Thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge unto you. This is the idea. Possession is 9/10 of the law. This is where possession is 9/10 of the law comes from. Because when you loan an article to your brother, no matter who, you're in your family, you give him permission of ownership. End of case. And if you're blessed, he will return it. Because we're not supposed to borrow our neighbor's things. Provide for ourselves. We're not to become incorporated with our brothers and our sisters. We're to fend for ourselves. Verse 12. And if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goes down, that he may sleep in his own coat, and bless thee, and it shall be righteous unto thee before Yahweh thy King. Verse 14. Thou shalt not oppress a hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in the land within thy gates. Strangers. Strangers. Now up here in Leviticus, we've got the number 8453. And then we've got 2114, 116, 1616, 2114, up please. We've got 5237. This is all for the word stranger. Not pervert the judgment of a stranger, here in Deuteronomy 24:17. Now, that's 5 different numbers just on this one page. Oh, and 376, which works in conjunction with 5237 or 2114 to make that a definition proper. So, next please. What does stranger mean in any other passage there? It's your place to find out. Homework. 1616. An alien, a guest, a sojourner, a stranger. 1481 and 1482. 1481. That's a prime route. To turn aside from the road, a traveler, for lodging or other purpose. A sojourner, a guest, a traveler. Also to shrink, to fear, as in a strange place. Also to gather for hospitality. Abide, assemble, be afraid, dwell, fear, gather together. Inhabitant, remain, sojourn, stand in awe. Now see, none of these explain and separate definitively and description of this stranger. That's why I put all these explanations up here, because you have to go through all of that and line it all up and see how it digests out, so that you know which category to put it in. Travelers from your family, or travelers from an alien nationality. And this is just part of the discipline of understanding how to study in the parchments you call the Bible. So here we are, 1482 from 81. It's a cub, as still abiding in the lair. Okay, there's your clue. A traveler would be like a cub that still lives at home but goes out and plays and comes back to the lair. And that's as close as you're going to understand that. Because the King James is not pure. The King James in 1611, when it was brought out, was rejected by the Puritans and the Quakers and the English professors. And many of them spent years in jail or prison because they refused the New English version of the Bible. It was that corrupt to them, as your pastor will teach, the NIV is today. And there's nothing new under the sun. So you shall not oppress a hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be brethren or stranger. Family that's traveling from town to town. Excuse me. That his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor, and setteth his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto Yahweh, and it be a sin unto thee. Okay? A man works today, he gets paid today. The saying right here, from all the way back at the time that Moses brought these laws to our family, you're going to have poor. Make sure your poor brothers eat. Don't withhold a wage. But see how when you get in the Cain society, they'll hold your wage a week or 2 weeks. Because the corporate owner, as he's earning from the business of your labor, he gets to draw interest, whatever little bit he's able to, helps pay your wage without you gaining profit by having your wage every day. Well, it's just too hard for me to cut that many checks every day. Well, they used to pay a dock worker in New York or along the coast. Anybody worked unloading boats used to get paid in silver every day at the end of the day. But remember, that was a time in a different place. Deuteronomy 24:16. The father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Now, if you want to follow up on that, Ezekiel 18 verse 20, Ezekiel 18 is about sour grapes and how the family, the father and the son, sour grapes. But in the New Covenant or the New Testament, once to die in judgment, as it tells us in Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27. You're to die for your own sins. You're to die for your own righteousness. You're to die for your own judgment. Good, bad, or whatever happens. That's your time, your place with the Heavenly Father. Solely and wholly yours. Your pastor won't be there, your preacher won't be there, your rabbi won't be there to cover your back. So it's up to you to study to show yourself worthy of kingdom entry. Deuteronomy 24, verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. But thou shalt remember that thou wast bondman in Egypt, and that Yahweh thy King redeemed thee hence. Therefore I command thee to do this. The widow's raiment. Well, see, about the time they got up into Jeremiah's day, there was no justice. There was no rights for widows. They didn't care if they took the last piece of clothing for taxes, church taxes, tithing. That's part of what happened and sent our family into Nebuchadnezzar's hands. Deuteronomy 24:19. When thou cuttest down thine harvest. Now see, right here we're getting back into the closing of this chapter, just like chapter 23 closed out. Chapter 23 closed out. If you go into your brother's grape field, you can eat. If you go into his grain field, you can eat. But you cannot put any in a can and take it home. But now here in chapter 24 of Deuteronomy, starting at verse 19, when thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheath in the field, you shall not go back to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that Yahweh thy holy Father may bless thee in all the work of thine hands. And when you beat the olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again, that it shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And when thou gatherest the grapes in the vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterwards. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and therefore I command thee to do these things, to leave the gleanings to the poor, to the widowed women. That's how Ruth got to know Boaz a little bit, through the gleanings. But our Heavenly Father's laws are simple. They're easy. They're not a great burden. If we stick with our Heavenly Father's ways, if we don't overtax or with usury our brothers, now there's nothing wrong with usury on the alien nations, but not on your brother. Be careful what you take and borrow from your brother. And do the right thing and return it in a timely fashion. At least as good as you found it, if not cleaned up just a little better. But see, these are the things, this law is the artery of the livelihood of the white Western European culture that's being decimated by the hues of humans, of color. The different hues are coming along and distracting and disrupting the white Western European nations' cultures and their ways, because the white thing to do is a racist concept. And stop and think. All the way up to 1970, any place in the world, if you heard about an American, they were exclusively known as a Caucasian. Not African American. They weren't prominent then. They were just in their place as an alien living amongst us. There weren't Asian Americans that were prominent, even though they held a few seats in Congress and political areas here and there. The more they took and gained and got into the political seats of power, the greater the darkness grew. And now we're at a point when the light is pushed right back in the corner. But the disciplines are easy, or for the kingdom of heaven, or the disciplines are difficult for the kingdom of Cain in this world industrial, live in the city society. So divers laws from Deuteronomy 24 is the mainstay. I'm Yahweh's name witness, a covenant relationship teacher, Ray Bunzow. Up, please. Today is February 3rd, 2018. May Yahweh go through the white Western European nations, those that he has a desire to arise, has already put the laws in their hearts and in their minds. And he has to poke them a little bit to get them to go to work. So the covenant soldiers, the Christian soldiers, that is a covenant soldier. Christian is a code word for covenant in the Catholic Church. May Yahweh bless his children wherever they may be when they call upon his name. Have a good day. So be it.